is called The Old Woman Who Lived in a Vinegar Bottle by Margaret Reed MacDonald. I chose this story because the central theme of greed and having your fantasies indulged was something I found kind of weird and appealing at the same time. So that's why I chose this story. Here it goes. There once was an old woman, an unhappy old woman. She didn't have much. All she had were her tattered old robes, one wooden chair, and, well, she lived in a vinegar bottle. One day the old woman said, "I haven't got a proper house. I think if I had a proper house, then I would be very happy." That very same day, a benevolent fairy descended upon her and said, "If you want a proper house, then perhaps you may have a proper house." The old woman then stood in front of a small proper house with a red door, and she was happy with it for a few days. Then the old woman said, "I've got but one wooden chair. If I had 2 chairs, perhaps a table, then I would be happy." The same fairy descended upon her again and said, "If you want another chair and a table, then you may have a chair and a table." And the old woman was happy sitting in her chair and her table for a few days. Then the old woman then said, "I haven't got a garden from which to pick vegetables and make myself a nice warm stew. If I had a garden, perhaps I'd be happy." So the fairy descended upon her again and said, "If you want a garden, then I will allow you a garden." And the old woman was happy picking from her garden, for a few days. Then the old woman said, My robes are old and tattered. If I had nice silk and wool robes, I think then I'd be very happy." So the fairy descended upon her again, slightly irate, and said, "If you want silk and wool robes, then you may have silk and wool robes." So the old woman was happy admiring her robes for a few days. Then the old woman got an idea. She said, "I look much too extravagant now for my proper house. If I had a bigger house, a mansion even, I'd be very happy." So the fairy descended upon her again and said, and the old woman then stood in front of a large white house with marble floors, high vaulted ceilings, and a grand staircase. She was happy walking about it for a few days. Then the old woman said, "The marble floors are much too cold for my bare feet. If I had a pair of fine silver slippers, I'd be very happy." So the fairy, a slightly less benevolent fairy, descended upon her again and said, "If you so desire a pair of silver slippers, then you may have a pair of silver slippers." And so the old woman was happy clacking about her house in her silver slippers for a few days. Then the old woman said, "The walls of my mansion are so bare. If I had nice fine tapestries to admire as I walked through, I think then I'd be happy." So the fairy descended upon her again and said, "Oh, fine." And so the old woman was happy admiring her tapestries throughout her house for a few days, give or take 1 or 2. And then the old woman got another idea. She said, I haven't much money. If I had a fortune of gold, perhaps I'd be happy." And so the fairy descended upon her again and said, "If you want a fortune of gold, then what harm will it do?" And so the old woman was happy with her fortune of gold, spending what she wanted, her heart's desire, for a few days. Then the old woman got another cheeky idea, and she said, "I have a nice big house, a fortune of gold, fine clothes, and fine slippers. If I had everything that there ever was, I think I'd be the happiest old woman alive." And so the fairy, very upset with the old woman, descended upon her one last time and said, "I've had enough of you. You are an unending, avarice old wretch, and I will not tolerate this any further. So now, because of your unending greed, you will have nothing but what you started. And so at the end of the day, all the old woman had was her tattered old robes, one wooden chair, and her vinegar